It's funny, whenever I read this, I always think the first part is like, oh yeah, I want that. I want to know him. I want to know the power of his resurrection. Yes, 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 yes. But then when you keep reading, and the fellowship of his sufferings becoming conformed to his death, that I may, in order that I may attain to the resurrection of the dead. And we're like, I'm not sure about that part. I like the first part. The second part, I'm not so sure about, right? And so whenever I read this, I think, oh God, either I don't understand what this means, or I'm having a hard time like trying to embrace this. The fellowship of his sufferings. Do I really want that? Do I really want the fellowship of his sufferings being conformed to his death? It was interesting. One day, I was with someone who was close to me, and we're talking, and we're having a conversation. And then during the middle of this conversation, this person said something that was really hurtful to me, right? Just really, really offensive, right? And I got really upset, right? And so me and this person were started arguing, and then I was kind of like fighting back and then saying things about this other person. And I left that situation feeling really bad. You know, I felt like, gosh. And then, I don't know if it's just me, but do you ever have this where you kind of replay it in your mind, right? You keep thinking about it, right? Like, oh, I can't believe this person said this thing, and then what did I do to deserve it, right? So you think about all the things that you did, and you're like, no, I was good to this person. I said, I did this thing for them, and I did this for them. I was really nice to them. And then you kind of replay it in your mind over and over and over, and it gets you more mad, right? When you keep thinking about it, you're like, this was really not right. You know, I didn't think it was right at the time, but the more I keep thinking about it, the more I keep thinking that was so wrong what they did. I kept thinking about it more and more and more. Like, this was totally unjust. I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve what they said. I didn't deserve the things that they said about me. This was totally unwarranted. This was really unjust. And that's what I was thinking. And then the Lord said to me, I experienced that too. When Jesus was saying to me, I was also unjustly accused. I also had people say things to me that were totally untrue, that were lies, that were totally unmade up. They did those things to hurt me. They did those things to accuse me. They did those things to kind of really come against me. And then he said, you got to experience what I experienced. You got to know me in a way you could never have known me before. Because of what you experienced, you have an intimacy with me that you never had before. You have a closeness with me because you got to come in and experience something at my deepest heart level, something that I felt deep, deep, deep inside. You got to feel that too. You got to experience that too. You got to experience what Paul says here, which is the fellowship of my sufferings, becoming like me in my death. You got to experience closeness with me and intimacy with me that no one else gets to experience unless they've gone through this. You know, it's interesting when you go through difficult times, people around you, you know, your friends or your family or whoever, they'll try to encourage you during the time. You know, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but there's times when I've gone through really hard things that people are very good intention and they'll try to say things that are helpful to you, but actually what they tell me was very hurtful, right? It was very hurtful. Like things that they would say is like, felt very insensitive, right? And so like, that was not helpful. That was actually really hurtful what you were saying to me, right? And then I started realizing it's because they never went through what I've gone through. They don't understand. But there's other times when people have come up to me when I know that they've experienced like that deep level of hurt or pain in this particular area. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I know that they've experienced. And the things they say to me are so different. They're so different. And it does minister to me. And I do feel cared for, and I do feel loved, and I do feel supported by what they say. But the only reason that they are able to do that is because they went through that too. This is what Paul is talking about here. It says we get the privilege of being able to be intimate with Jesus. in a way that we could never experience before. And that's what he spoke to me that day. And when he did, my perspective totally changed. I went from being really bitter and really upset and angry to feeling blessed. And that was really strange, right? You feel like you're gone through this and you feel blessed, but I did. I feel blessed. I felt like, thank you, Lord, that I get to know you this way. Thank you that I got to experience something you experienced. I got to know you in a way that I would never known you before. I got to be close to you in a way that I could have never been close to you before. I got to experience an intimacy with you that only could come about in this way. So when we're going through hard times and when we're going through suffering, to know that what Hebrews 4 says, we have a high priest who understands us. He understands us because he's gone through everything that we've gone. He's been tempted in every way and yet without sin. He's helped us to be able to say, I've experienced exactly what you've experienced, but I've experienced it in a way that honors God still, that I've experienced it without sin. I can show you. Come share with me. Come be close to me when you experience this, because I experienced this too. And I can show you how God sees it. I can show you how I experienced it, how I went through that, how I suffered, how I went through those things, yet without sin. We have that privilege of being able to experience and to suffer along with Christ, because we're gonna be in this world, we're gonna experience suffering. We will. But it's how are we going to receive it? How are we going to see it? That's important. And this is what Paul's at a mission. He's asking, let me have this so I can know you more. Let me experience this so I can know you deeper. Let me experience this so I can experience the power that comes from your resurrection.